Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Stan Deatherage, and this is Table Talk. Today, we're very happy to have City Councilman Nick Fritz, Max Perreault. Thanks for being with us today. We have a lot to talk about. These guys are changing the way we do government here in Washington, the city of Washington. Excuse me, easy for me to say. The municipality of Washington, the corporate Washington. And I thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Tell us all how you're going to make our lives better.
Max, knock it out of the park, man. I've done one or two of these. Let's hear yourself.
You know, getting behind the curtain has been a really eye-opening couple of months for us. Obviously, when you campaign, you have only such a narrow view of what the problem truly is, and you know what the priorities need to be before you get in office.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, we ran on the tax rate reduction because the city decided to do a 11-cent increase instead of going revenue neutral after the reevaluation. There were a lot of other issues.
Sounds like the county a little bit. We didn't go fully revenue neutral either. We were about 7.5% off, by the way. But keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Well, you know.
Just let the people out there know, government is messy sometimes.
I was just about to say, big government likes to say we need the extra money for the services. But once we got behind the curtain, you know, we realized there were a lot of other issues. Just off the top of my head, looking at my notes here, you know, our electrical rate hasn't been reviewed, increased, or looked at in almost 17 years. Our fund balance policy hasn't been updated in almost 17 years. You know, if there were to be a massive hurricane and all our infrastructure went down, the city probably couldn't fix it because of the fund balance policy. So, you know, then the question kind of becomes, okay, we have this massive campaign promise of we need to lower the taxes, but at the same time, the government is almost 2 decades behind.
It's an excellent promise.
It's a good promise. But the government's almost 2 decades behind. And we're not talking just on policies. We're talking on standards, IT infrastructure, the policies. I mean, everything, the whole lot. So now it's, you know, who did this?
Who didn't do this?
Or who didn't do this, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. You know, the past couple of weeks I've been talking with Nick about it, and I've been saying, you know, all these city managers for the past 20 years, why haven't they done this? Why haven't they said, we're going to update these policies, we're going to raise the electrical rate to increase the fund balance, so that way when the reevaluation comes, we don't need to do a huge tax rate increase, but maybe we do a 2.5% normal adjustment. Or maybe we just don't do anything. We stay revenue neutral. Why hasn't anybody taken responsibility for what needs to happen in order for the government to run for the people, not by the people?
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of getting really hammering in on this, that it's always one person who's responsible. County manager, city manager, town manager, whoever. But then, you know, through the 5 or 6 months that I've been there, it's kind of clicked. Well, wait a minute. Washington hasn't had a Republican conservative council in just about that long.
I think there's been some Republicans in name only on the council, but not any real Republicans like you guys.
But it's hard when you have extreme opposition against you as well to do what's right.
Yeah.
To do what's needed.
Yes.
So now,
I understand that.
you know, the conversation is, we're elected. Campaigning's over. Governing's now. Are we going to govern by the status quo standard?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into, you know, the financial issues. Or are we going to say, we're elected to be conservative leaders, Republican leaders, and we are going to lead and bring the city to the position where it's supposed to be right now, and say this is going to be hard, but it's going to be good for everybody long term because of it. And this has to happen. So that's where I'm at. Nick, what about you?
Well, I think, like Max said, running a campaign is a little different than peeking behind the curtain. And when we look behind the curtain, Max referenced some stuff. The population of Washington has not changed in decades. Since 1960, our population has been about 9,900, 9,800, minimal difference. Now, the taxes that have been collected have gone up. The economy in Washington has grown in 70 years, even though the population has stayed relatively stagnant. And our infrastructure has aged. And when you finally look behind the curtain, after a big tax increase, and we say, well, where's all the money? Where's the additional money that's been collected for 70 years? He's referencing a lot of need. We have a lot of electrical infrastructure need, a lot of water infrastructure need, and all these bank accounts that are real low. So where did it all go? And the answer is that the population of Washington has not changed, but the population of the government has grown substantially. So the number of people.
Sounds like Beaufort County government.
And I think that's the nature of government. When you have extra dollars and cents, they don't necessarily say we're going to set that aside like you would at your private house, where I know I have a water heater I need, so I set aside and save for it. If the government has any extra money, because they're 2-year terms or 4-year terms, depending on how you're elected, those guys want to spend some money and show something. They're typically gonna let's have some extra EMS guys running around. Let's hire some more police officers. Let's do something showy. So we're spending money all the time, and then when you actually need to do something, like we need to do some infrastructure spending, they say, well, I guess we're just gonna have to raise taxes. Nobody ever walks in and says the logical thing, which is, well, maybe we should scale back on some of that extra spending we did for the last decade.
Yeah, and see, that's what you guys are doing, and what I was going to suggest to the public and yourselves. There's the converse to what you just said. That's the liberal perspective, and I get that. They will always want to provide more and more services, and that's for some people that's a good thing. But at some point, you got to pay for it. And here in Beaufort County, we had a more liberal type governing process, and you've got the wee voices on the outer range, like myself and Hood, yammering for a couple of decades now. Well, why don't we do it a little different? Why don't we stop some of this spending? Why don't we cut back on this or that and the other? Because, and you're going to find this out, you guys, when you got elected, it was such a big increase. People screamed. We haven't had that in the county yet. We really haven't had that point where people said, this is way too much. What are you going to do about it? How did it ever get this bad? There's still people say, well, I'm happy to pay my taxes. There's a point where even the most liberal person in this county, the most leftist person in this county will scream.
Yeah.
And that's what you guys want to avoid. But you also want to, I'm getting this from you, Max, and you too, Nick. We've talked a lot. You want to do whatever it takes to make things better in this county and make the county, in this city, and make the city grow and flourish.
Well, I can't take enough money out of your pockets, Nan, to make Max rich. And fundamentally, the liberal perspective is government activity is economic activity.
Yes.
That's just a fundamental misconception that the left has.
That's economic development.
Economic development means if I take from the left and I dump it on the right.
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally, the conservatives it's not even that we don't agree with it. It's just a fundamentally incorrect way of thinking.
It's not good business.
So, and there's the two aspects of, and I get it. Max and I were talking on the way here. I want a EMS truck at the end of every neighborhood. I want a fire truck ready to go out to every home. I want a police officer ready for everyone. I want a pool, and I want a public pool everywhere and public tennis courts. And it all sounds great. And I want all those things, and I don't want to pay for any of them.
No.
But
I hear fire trucks are around $1 million now. With all
Oh, no. More than that. We're looking at trying to replace the tower truck, and it's over $2 million.
Oh, my God. Well, that's got all the whistles, bumpers. And
No. That's empty.
Stripped
just
down.
metal. The stripped down. And that's post-COVID economy, too. People are just gouging as much as they can.
I would suggest not buying now. This is the worst time to buy anything.
we need to get in the fire truck making business.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
constant demand.
That's the other side of conservatism. We have to peel. Look, whatever was going on in the city of Washington 18 months ago, I didn't feel like we were on the verge of collapse from a government perspective, from a government service perspective. The difference in the budget this year versus 18 months ago is the tax increase that we're talking about peeling out. That's it. We're not talking about stripping away EMS that we've had for decades. We're not talking about stripping away fire departments or any of these things. We're talking about whatever was going on in the city 18 months ago. If we perform at that same level, we do not need the tax increase that just passed. So there will be some cries that we're cutting into services. It's just fundamentally not true. And the other side, the getting into the, let's get into the fire truck business, that's where real economic activity happens. How do we get those businesses to come to Washington and to Beaufort County? Because that's what brings commerce, that's what brings jobs, that's what brings real additional government revenue, which allows us to actually expand services without raising taxes.
And tax base.
And I want to jump in on that too really quick. So another one of our council members who can't be here because we would have a quorum, which is not legal.
I only invited two.
So Councilmember Davis actually put out, a really interesting article or piece saying that, the median income of Washington is around 38,000. And that was on the last census report that came out. The growth has stayed stagnant, but yet we're charging exorbitant prices and taxes, and sales tax, all these other taxes. And the services just aren't there. They say they're there, but they're not. We spent the morning talking about what are our priorities for the budget in a work session today. And for me, it was really annoying because it's just always the same. Well, we have to have these extra employees. We have to have the brand new truck. We have.
You even have a committee for that, for employee committee, don't you?
Right. It's just all these things. We have to. And eventually we got to the end of it, and I was so annoyed. I just kind of said, and I think I got a little loud, but I mean, it's passion, And I said, I don't understand, echoing Nick's point here. Why is it that we had a revenue neutral rate that worked for multiple years, and now all of a sudden we needed to do a tax increase after a reevaluation? These people's mortgages just got hit. Their taxes are getting hit. The cost of living is exorbitant in the United States, not just North Carolina.
Yes. So everybody pays for higher groceries and higher gas.
And what I said to our department heads and our new city manager, which we'll also talk about, is that the population has not increased. The services have, the staff have. There's no direct need for the increase. There's nothing. The people have stayed the same. Why did we need the extra paramedics? Why did we need the extra staffers for community development or community services, I think is what it's called? Why do we need that? Well, the answer to me was, we went out and we polled a couple of the community members, and they said if we had paramedics, they'd feel safer. And I'm the first one to say
older people act like that.
Well, I'm the first person to say emergency medical services are important. I mean, I worked in Wilson County for EMS. I'm hoping to work in Beaufort County for EMS. You know what I mean? But if you had told the same person, if I came and I knocked on your door and I said, Stan Deatherage, would you feel safer with a paramedic coming to your house as opposed to a basic level provider? Would you say yes or no?
I'd probably say, what's the cost? What's it going to cost me?
Well, you're smart. That's the thing. Most people would say, absolutely, I want the best care I can get right now. But if you went to them and you said, in 7 years, this is going to cost you $1,000 extra in taxes per year on your home, everyone would say no.
My suggestion to all the old folks moving to this area, just go to the gym more often. It'll help us. It'll help with the cost of living.
Well, we noticed what shape you're in, Stan, so we should all take a little hint from
Thank you.
So what I'm trying to say, though, is that, Nick, myself, and Joe, and I hate the word majority or, the lead or anything like that, because at the end of the day, we have to work as a team, the whole council. Just like the county commissioners, we have to work as a team. But we all have the same idea. The government needs to shrink. Unless the population grows, the services don't need to grow. They can stay the same, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do revenue neutral like we did in the last budget cycle, like Nick was saying previously. There's absolutely no reason why it shouldn't be possible.
I've got a question. Okay, you guys are heading into your first budget.
Yes, sir.
You're probably getting ready to have your budget workshops start. You're going to find that you're going to have something done by the 30th of June. You'll probably get it done before that, but you need to get it done by the 30th of June. So that, state of North Carolina can wait 2 years to get a budget, but you guys can't. You got 5 people up there. You got 3 people running as a team. You're going to have to make some hard decisions. You expressed just recently that you really need to work together as a group. At some point, do you think your group may become fractured? And you're going to have some splits, 2-5, 2-3, 3-2s? And how are you prepared to deal with that? Because that's when the sausage gets made and, men step to the fore. It's going to get tough.
Do you want to start or else?
Yeah, I'm going to put it on Max, because Max, you quoted Joe, and I consider Joe a fiscal ally. I think ideologically we're on the same page, and I don't even really want to alienate the other guys, man. We've had some really good conversation with those guys. I know the county suffers.
You guys are influencing them, huh?
Well, the competition was so difficult on the way in. I think they felt so attacked, and I think maybe honestly, Washington was asleep until those taxes were raised.
Oh,
and
boy.
I think those guys were caught off
That was a
guard
warning
by the
bell right there.
amount of negativity that came out. So
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I think City of Washington overextended the shell game. and Beaufort County government sometimes we're kind of running the risk of overextending the so-called shell game. I kind of came up with that idea. But that's what it is. Governments do this. And they don't want you to see what's going on underneath until you get angry, and then they start pointing fingers. Like when we did revenue neutral, it's a political issue, right? How much are you going to give the people's money back to them since it was their money to begin with? I mean, government cannot government cannot give back to the people what it hasn't already taken from them. I mean, they take their cut off the top, right? They get their vig off the top. So I'm talking about government. So it's a profit game for some people. Now, City of Washington, they've gone too far. The county's almost gone too far, and we were not a true revenue neutral county ourselves last year. We figured it's about 7.5% below revenue neutral, or excuse me, 7.5% we tax people more than revenue neutral.
Now, is that from fire tax and EMS tax, or is that from
that's just pretty much ad valorem property taxes? Okay. Yeah, and that's basically revenue neutral only deals with that.
Okay.
The other ones are more flexible. It's almost like a sales tax. So we didn't do our job right either. And so we're going to be talking about that. That's a political issue. But what they do is these politicians that don't really have a backbone, they'll use the bureaucrats as a shield. This is why we had to do it this way. And you're going to hear some of that. And they're going to act like you don't know anything. And you're going to say, hey, we set the tax rate. That's one of the things we can control, just like we can appoint a few people. We hope we appointed the right people. But we can set the tax rate. And we got to make a decision here. This is a political decision. And we decide, we said we'd do it. We're going to have to make some tough cuts. And you might not get the whole 28% back this year, but you'll get a little piece of it. And that would be a victory for a lot of us that pay these enormous taxes in the city of Washington.
Well, before I let you talk, man, I mean, I've had this conversation a number. The local government is just a homeowner association. There's 10,000 residents of the city of Washington. There's 5 people elected to oversee whatever it is that homeowner association is supposed to be doing, providing EMS, providing fire protection, police protection.
You got to hope your covenants aren't written in such a way that it pisses everybody off.
Well, and so, you know, that just like a homeowner association, you set dues, everybody pays in, and the service is then provided. If the group at the top says, all of a sudden, we need to jack up your rates to continue providing the service that we were providing yesterday, and the citizens say, no, we don't want it. Now and that's what they said. There was no ambiguity about that. So now we have to be honest to make the decision. Well, fine. If they don't want to pay this, then this is the rate that they've accepted. This is the rate they want. That's why we're there. They sent us there and said, this is the rate we want. Now, they may want a whole bunch of services, but what we're certain of is this is the rate. This was the line in the sand, and we have to work backwards from there.
Right.
Work backwards. I like that. I mentioned that back when I was a early commissioner in 1994. Oh, how are you going to figure? That was asked. How are you going to make those cuts, Dan? Well, we'll just work backwards. Nobody understood that.
Well, when you go to the grocery store and you reach in your pocket and you got $50, and you get to the checkout and it comes up to 60.
Yeah. You got to work backwards.
You work backwards.
Yeah.
And the citizens who set us up there, it's not like at the register, because government doesn't work like that. We just reach back into their pockets and pull out some more.
Yeah.
And the conservatives are generally opposed to that.
Yeah, grassroots. It starts
on the left.
The voter, really. Mm-hmm. That's where it all begins.
But there's an issue with that too, though.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, they were very upset about their taxes. They were very upset about, the lack of services that they believed were important. I mean, I went out, I knocked on close to 2,000 doors. I tried to go to every neighborhood in the city that I could during my campaign to meet as many people as I could. And a lot of the complaints were, well, the city hasn't taken care of the ditch next to my house, and I don't want to let my kids or dogs out because I'm scared they're going to fall in. It's overgrown. It floods. It doesn't drain. X, Y, and Z. Oh, well, look at my streets, littered in potholes, all these things. So on the one hand, people are mad about the taxes. On the other hand, they're mad that there's services, but the service is not going to them. Because we have 2 pages of our budget is dedicated to nonprofit funding, which is a whole separate issue, and also government subsidies that we give to different groups. Well,
we call that charities.
Well, today, we talked about it, and it was economic development, and that's what it was listed as on the budget page, and it came out to $942,000. So just to put it in perspective, the tax decrease that we want to do in a perfect world is 11 cents. 28% down, back to revenue neutral, 37.75. That comes out at $160,000 per penny to just over 1.76 million. So $900,000 of that is tied up in quote unquote economic development of these different charities, as you say. And I asked the question, I said, who's in charge of this? Blank stares.
Yeah.
It was like the wall had just fallen off the building. People didn't know how to react. I said, who's in charge of this? Who's in charge of making sure that this $942,000 of taxpayer money is getting used appropriately and that it's delivering the outcomes that we expect as a city? Well, the response was, well, what are the outcomes? Okay, hold on. First of all, you should have never given $1 if you didn't know what the outcomes were going to be. It's just wasteful spending to start.
Very good.
The $942,000, I'd rather have that every year dedicated towards going towards capital improvement projects.
Yes.
Reinvestment into the community in actual tangible outcomes, fixing potholes, fixing streets, fixing the dirt, ditches, anything like that. Or just put it in a savings account and don't touch it. The county's sitting flush on how much money do you have in your savings for the county?
I think we're around 25 million. You did have about 38 million, and they spent $10,500,000 on a school we didn't need. So, I mean, that was a big chunk, but it was for free money.
But it feels good sitting.
That's the most expensive free money I've
That was part of that shell game got overextended again.
But it feels good sitting on $20 million, though, because God forbid something happens in Beaufort County.
Yeah, I want to give some of that back. I want to give some of it back to the taxpayers. I really do.
100% should. So to answer your earlier question, though, just to go full circle, when does the group start to crack or split, like you said, going into this budget process? I think it's important to understand, what does each person value as important? What Nick values in this budget process is different than what I value. At a certain point, we're going to differ. At a certain point, Joe and I are going to differ. Anthony, Antoine, all five of us have different priorities here, but the end of the day priority needs to be, number one, we need to stop doing reckless general fund transfers from our enterprise accounts because we are robbing our electric department, water and sewer, to float our government. We're robbing them. I mean, absolutely stealing. And we need to make sure that the services that we're providing are actually what's needed by the 10,000 people that live here, not what we think is needed. Because the worst thing that you can hear is, I'm from the government, I'm here to help.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Ronald Reagan said that years ago.
But like Nick said,
He coined that.
we all fiscally agree to a certain point, right? Even some of, our other council members on the other side of the aisle, they still have the same goal. We do want to lower the burden on our citizens. It's just the way we approach it is different. We're heavily fiscally conservative. They're not. But we'll come to an agreement at the end of the day for what's best because, sadly, we can't shut down. I'd be all in favor of a shutdown.
But what if you can't come to an agreement with the other two? And you get three of you together, you got a victory.
Budget passes.
There you go.
People get their cut.
They get their cut.
We shrink the government.
Some people are going to scream. Some are going to... Thanks.
The
You gonna hear that?
voters put us in to do the job, and we were very clear on what the intentions were. Very clear. I mean, do you agree with that? It was very clear of what the goal was when we got in.
Yeah, I don't think any of us ran on specific service issues. I think the reason the city woke up was based on a tax hike. And they sent us there, and they were not unclear in the message. This is asking more than what we're willing to pay. So that's not a question. No, they're putting the hard stuff on us. They're sending us there to say, these are the cuts that have to be made, and we're going to do it as surgically as possible. And I think cuts is the wrong word. Efficiency is a better word. There are ways. There's a lot of duplicate stuff. I'm glad we're sitting here with Stan. There's some stuff that both the city and the county are doing. The county's already doing it, and the city's jumping on top and doing it again.
I would suggest maybe a meeting in public with the cameras rolling and probably in our chambers because we have a little better video.
Well, what about the city council chambers? What if we want to have the chambers?
Well, ours are a little bit more modern.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, we have the ability to really have a high quality production if we want to.
You do.
If many years they didn't want to because they didn't want people to watch it. And, I know because I started back in the 90s helping Hood Richardson and I and a few others. We were out collecting monies, putting our own money into filming the commissioner meetings. And that started in the 1990s. And you were just a
I wasn't born yet.
Yours is a gleam in your pappy's eye.
I wasn't even a thought.
But we were doing that because we had no transparency here in Beaufort County, and we felt like we needed that, and it was very important. But speaking of transparency, okay, we were talking about charities. Have any of you guys gone to conflict of interest training yet with LIG? Well, one of the things I learned when I was at one of the most recent conflict of interest symposium was that the charities should not be given any money without a memorandum of understanding. We expect this from you if you get that. And when I mentioned that to my fellow commissioners, all except for Hood, they look at me like I got two heads. I never vote for the charities because they won't arrange it properly so that we have complete control. Now, we see what's happened up in Minnesota and these other places, and it could be happening in North Carolina. I'm sure in the most bluest counties, it is happening because that's what the left does. They use money to buy advantage. We conservatives use cutting taxes as our way of gaining political advantage. They like to spend money, and sometimes they have to give it fraudulently to certain people to get that bigger political oomph. Now, some people go to jail for that, and they should. And some people get celebrated for that. We need to start putting people in jail. And here at the local level, we really do need to know who's getting what and what are they getting it for. And we have some kind of an understanding. And I hope you guys will do that and push that on your group. We need to do this. Everybody needs to do a memorandum of understanding, something. So we'll have this agreement between us. And while you do that, I guarantee you I'll have 4 county commissioners vote against it because they don't do that.
So,
and 2 of them are so-called Republicans. Go figure.
So I'll give some credit where it's due to our former interim city manager. There was a council meeting that we had. I was going to try to pull the agenda up, but it's quicker just to talk about it. There's a council meeting we had a couple months ago where we were reviewing exactly how much money we were giving to said charities and nonprofits, 501(c)(3)s. And part of what I also took away from the conflict of interest training and also just the normal, hey, what are you allowed to do as a governing body was you can't fund and subsidize those organizations for their operating expenses. You can't pay the salaries. You can't pay the insurance. You can't pay their food bills. You can't do any of that stuff. What the money you give them. If I give you $10,000 and you have 501(c), you have to show me exactly how $10,000 is going to benefit Nick and his family from something that you do here in Washington. So Mr. Robertson went out and he contacted all these charities and 501(c)s and he said, you need to send me where every single dollar has gone, what these programs are, how it benefits, how many kids in the city, the county, families in the city, the county, the whole lot, everything. I want to see it all and I want to give it to my council because we're going to decide, are you going to keep receiving this funding or not? Is it legal or not? What needs to change? And I'll tell you, and this isn't the accurate number, this is just what I'm saying. If there were 10 501(c)s, 8 of them were covering operating expenses. Yes. Of the 2 that weren't,
it all goes in
which
the
we
pot.
can't do,
One
by the
pot.
way. One of them even said clearly in its request for funding was for one person's salary. $25,000. Of the 2 that weren't, one of them, it just didn't make sense because it was just a one-off donation to some, random organization. It just didn't make sense. It's one of those things where you scratch your head and you're like, what is this for? Why is this budget line item in here? And then the other one was truly giving a benefit and impact back to the community for the money that they got. And they clearly listed it. And there was a large number of families, adults, young children that got the benefit from it. And that made sense. That I'm all for. I'll happily support that program. But the rest of it just doesn't make sense.
Dan, I want to jump in. There's a couple things because I want to address a few things while we have an audience, while we're on a podcast. There's 2 main items that I was hoping we would cover today. One, I want to figure out, you were getting to the idea that the county commissioners and the city council sitting together and really seeing, we have a certain amount of overlap. The city of Washington is part of the county and we want to move forward. We want economic development for our area more than even, as much as I want to cut taxes, and that's what conservatives want to do is shrink the size and scope of the government. I want to expand the economic activity of our county, which, Washington, we're sitting beside Greenville. We're sitting beside Raleigh. North Carolina is one of the fastest growing economies in the union. and we're just not getting our fair share. So one of the things I want to talk about
But we are in a position now to start getting more than we've ever gotten before.
is how we're going to do that. And one of the things that Max and I talked about was a win is a win. So if we sit on this council for a couple years and don't actually accomplish anything for whatever reason, it's just a waste. So how do we go from
Got that 28% in 2 years.
how do we
I'm going to say that's a win.
how do we get the wins? How do we get the win? Because that's what matters. And if it's sitting down with the county commissioners, if it's picking up the phone and calling businesses all day, if it's arguing with our own crowd and cutting taxes, those are the things. So I want to talk about the county and the city sitting down at some point and actually looking and saying, why do we have two governments operating 4 doors apart with overlapping services? The same people are paying for that. Let's get together in the room. It's hard to get 5 people to agree. It'll be even harder to get all of us in the same room to get something done, but got to start. And the second thing is Max. I want to start. I want that conversation. I want to get all of us in a room. Let's see if we can't make some progress. Now I put it back on you. Now there's 3 of us that theoretically have a lot of alignment. And in the last month, there was a lot of controversy publicly and online between you and Joe Davis. Now, I'm putting it on you on camera right here, man. If we can't get 3 of us aligned and getting stuff done, how can we possibly get 5? And how can we possibly get 10? So Max, how can we make it? What happened? How do we overcome this?
I think there was just a lot of perfect storm items that came up all at once that kind of brought us to a tipping point. The first thing that I'm going to say is that, Councilmember Davis is a council member alongside me. Regardless, the voters believed in what he was saying, just like they believed in what I was saying, and he's owed the respect of that. The second thing is that, similar to myself, he also is a conservative. He believes that there needs to be a tax cut, and I will always support a financial item brought forward that supports that agenda. Now, where the difference came in was the delivery of a lot of these issues. There were some hot button issues that we've gotten into the past couple of months. I'm just going to put it out there because it gets a lot of attention. The Aquatic Center. I mean, man, what a mess that turned into for us.
I heard about that.
And even close to you with your family. I mean, what a crazy mess.
I just want to say this publicly. I knew nothing about it before it happened, and I really don't know that much about it afterwards. And I've been kind of drug into it, and
well, I wish I didn't know anything about it. I wish I could be in yours, Bill.
Yeah.
So my issue is this, right? So let's look at a community like Greenville. Greenville has a municipal golf course that at the time was failing. It was hemorrhaging money, hemorrhaging. And Greenville said, okay, we need to fix this or we're just going to shut it down and get rid of it. The people really liked it. And golf is now the fastest growing sport anywhere. It's a great thing to have. We should have a golf course here. But they said, we're going to have a private management group come in. We're going to subsidize the operating costs. The management group is going to take it and they're going to say, okay, we have no return on investment. We're not generating profit. We need to fix that. We need a new marketing plan. We need to get more people here. Kind of like tourism, more heads in beds, more people on the course. Now, the course is great. It's profitable. They still have the management group in place. The government is benefiting from it. The community is benefiting from it. That's good government, in my opinion. The same situation probably could apply here. But the issue is that we had, I don't know how to say this without it coming across wrong, but we had a kind of reckless approach to how we wanted to address it. A lot of the conversations should have stayed internal. You're a commissioner. You've been a commissioner for a long time. You know this. You don't put an idea out to the community that's not just about fully baked.
You need to get it formed.
It needs to be formed and it needs to be good. Because odds were, I would have supported it. Nick would have supported it. I bet you the whole council would have supported a group coming in there and saying, okay, where are our shortcomings? Because I'm just going to scroll up here because I want to give you the actual numbers on this. If you'll give me just 1 second.
Sure.
There's an 8% cost recovery rate on the Aquatic Center right now. Most North Carolina League of Municipalities benchmarks for well-run municipal aquatic centers operate at a 50 to 70% cost recovery rate. We're nowhere near that benchmark. Now, I think it got delivered too early. I think there was probably a great path for us forward on how to address those problems and how to get to a solution on it. I just think that what Joe did was a little Rambo. Now, Nick
I
has
think Joe was just trying to show I'm doing something here.
which is important.
But you sometimes you got to have all your ducks in a row.
You got to slow down. You just got to slow
Yeah.
down. That's all. And when him and I talked one-on-one, that's kind of what I told him. I said, we just got to slow down. If you don't put anything online, no conversation's going to happen back because there's nothing for people to be mad about. The court of public opinion won't speak.
I'm going to say one thing, and I'm probably out of league for saying this, but people don't get smarter on Facebook.
No.
Nobody gets smarter on Facebook, and people put out stuff, and then others respond, and they're like from another world.
Right.
They don't get it.
Right.
It's not. Maybe it wasn't explained to them properly. Maybe they shouldn't be even on Facebook.
Right.
And I'm sorry to say this, but gosh, I would like for the public to be more like you guys and what I try to be like, and know your issue before you open your daggone mouth.
Right.
Know it.
So
and be able to defend it. Because in life, in politics, and in life, you only get so many political chips.
Exactly.
And you can build more political chips if you're really good at what you do, but you got to spend those
Exactly.
in a very conservative manner.
Exactly. So let me put the bow on this.
And then you burn the house down if you can't get it right.
when you know you're on the way out.
you burn the house down.
So I had a lot of private conversations with him where I said, I'm not working against you. I support you. I believe in what you believe in. We have the same goal in mind, but I am absolutely against the delivery of how you're doing this.
Yeah.
It's just a delivery because now everybody's really mad in the community. There's a lot of distrust. There's a lot of disinformation because there's a lot of third-party news sources popping up out of nowhere that have opinions that just aren't true. They're just incorrect. They're wrong. So I tried to get that point across, and it wasn't really received well. I think, in the heat of the moment, it's hard to listen when you're emotional. It's hard, especially when you do hard work on a project, and then, somebody, being me, says, hey, I think you did that wrong. It's hard, and I understand that, and, I could have...
It's a public meeting. You got to say it in public.
Well, and so that's what happened this last month. This last month, I think things kind of came to a explosive point for us. I was very aggressive with basically saying, I'm not playing this game. For the past month, and I'll be transparent, I felt like I'd kind of been bullied and pushed around in a way. And I just don't like that, because my first priority is doing what's right for Washington and putting Washington first. It's my campaign slogan, Washington first. That's what I care about.
Show game last.
Show game last. You're not going to see me moving the coins and the cuts around.
I love it.
So it just kind of came to this really aggressive, explosive point. And what I tell Nick when that happens is we accomplish nothing but ruining the image of the city more. The businesses, and this goes back to economic development and the county and the city working together. They see this. They see the county saying, well, the city doesn't really work with us that well, but, the county can try to help you. Or if they come to the city first, the city says the same thing, vice versa. So in my opinion, he was mad at me. He got his piece out. I'm mad at him. I got my piece out. We're good. We're working forward now.
I like that. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, that means a lot to me because
together in our
I know both
project,
of you guys, and
Right.
I think you both have a lot to offer.
Exactly. And even Nick was telling me today at our work session when I was going crazy on my rant page about the reckless spending and overgrowth and all this stuff, Joe was sitting there saying, he was going, what is this guy? What's he saying? Why he's like that now? He's all about that. And it's like, yeah, I'm always about that. Let's get after it. It's important that we have young conservative Republicans in office. And Joe's a young conservative Republican. And Nick is a young conservative Republican. And it's what America.
Listen, I appreciate it. I'm glad it's going on. We need it. We need a lot of young conservatives getting in a group. We used to have a young Republican group, and that's one of the reasons I joined the Republican Party, because I roostered out of the JCs and I needed somewhere to go. And that was perfect for me because I didn't vote for Democrats anymore except for Mitchell Norton. God bless you, Mitchell. You're the only Democrat I voted for. And I saw it was a natural fit for me to just become a Republican.
Yeah.
And I just jumped in. I had a little moderate bias when I first got started, but it turned conservative real quick because I could see how when you really get down and break down the numbers and the reason for why you govern, it's more black and white than it is gray.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as gray. They say, but everything's gray. It's gray if you're talking two stories to two different groups. But if you tell people the truth and you tell it to them in public, it gets a little bit black and white because your vote is either yes or no.
Yeah.
You don't get to, abstain. Yeah. There's none of that in North Carolina.
Look,
right?
and to your point and stuff that's been said about me too recently, in 2018, I was registered as a Democrat.
That's okay.
It was my first election. It was when I was 18 for my first time. My family said, hey, you should register as a Democrat. We're all Democrats. I said, sure, why not? I don't know any better, right? So I worked for a stint in Wilson County doing EMS out there. And that was when my viewpoint changed. And that was when I realized there's no way I can support a party that does subsidy programs that just absolutely do nothing but hurt people. It forces government down your throat.
Yeah,
It
that's
hurts
good.
families.
Well, you learned this a lot earlier than I did, so
It's important.
you did good.
Did I answer your question, though, about the Joe issue? Is there other stuff with that?
No, that is, and the next question is Stan. You know, Stan, I was telling Max at some point, one of my favorite father-son combinations in politics over the last generation is Ron Paul and Rand Paul.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they stand up. Ron Paul was known as, you know, Dr. No.
Yes.
Whatever was going on, he voted
Dr.
against.
Gold.
And his son is great. However, and I like Rand Paul. You know,
He's a smart guy.
He's a smart guy. He speaks against government quite often.
However,
But I ask myself this question about Rand Paul and Ron Paul. If I was them for decades sitting in office and I got absolutely nothing accomplished, did those guys do anything really worthwhile other than communicating back to us who have good principles? Now, I feel like have an opportunity right now. I don't know how long we'll have any control in the city council. Let's be
better today.
Let's be honest.
It sounds better today. These guys are talking
Oh,
good.
man.
I hope Joe Davis, you're hearing this.
He's next. Him and I are
And
next.
Oh, good.
Him and I will
You're
be next.
both invited, Joe and Max. Nick, you're going to have to sit this one out.
Go ahead.
And the county has Republicans in there. You say you don't like some of these guys, but the
I
county,
like them. I just don't favor rhinos.
well, I look at it like this. You know, when in the 90s, the federal government had a process where the way that they reduced government was they just reduced the overlap of service. And basically, the federal government said, we're going to give it to the state. Do with it what you will. Mm-hmm. So the federal government cut it off their books, passed it off to the states, and the states, a little bit more conservative, cut it out. And government,
Closer to the people.
government, by and large, shrank. The economy boomed. We've had several decades of economic expansion. Mm-hmm. I feel like in this brief window of time, the city and the county have the opportunity to sit at that table and do something similar. The citizens of this Beaufort County, 44,000, 50,000 residents, are double paying for some services. I feel like this is our Ron Paul, Rand Paul opportunity not to follow in those guys' footsteps. Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk on this podcast about great things that could happen. I want to make those great things happen, man.
I appreciate that. Let me go to Ron Paul and Rand Paul.
Yeah, buddy.
Listen, I understand your one's ideological preference. I get that. But when the other side is so far gone, you have to coalesce around a group to do what's right for everyone. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I had some big misgivings when President Trump first got elected in 2016. Big misgivings. I have no misgivings now. None whatsoever. And he needs all the help he can get if we're going to do these things that need to be done, because there's so much disinformation, misinformation, whatever you want to call it. Let's call it propaganda going on in America today. And it happens at the local level as well. That's why I'm glad you're here. This is the real thing. We're talking to the source. We're talking to the source. I get to ask a few questions. And this is wonderful. You're hearing these guys fess up honestly as to what they expect of themselves and each other. And that's what government should be. These guys are close to you, and they're close to me. And that's what government is at its very, very best. Now, Rand and Ron can have these high-minded ideals, and I appreciate that. I agree with a lot of their high-minded ideals. But sometimes you've got to take a little bit away from what you want to be or do to get the job done. And it's important. The big, beautiful bill wasn't perfect. Look how Elon Musk and Trump went to loggerheads over it. And I appreciate Elon doing that. And Trump was saying things like, we had to do what we had to do. And maybe we get some more of that later. But look, we've got growth in this country now. Mm-hmm. I doubt. I may be wrong. We're at war now. Gas is up. You know, it's harder on the people. I don't think we're going to have a recession. I don't think we'll have a recession during his entire 4 years. And we really didn't have a one in his first 4 years. We had the pandemic. You remember the pandemic?
Yep.
And the pandemic was planned.
Well, that's where Washington went over the edge, really and truly.
Yeah.
All the COVID money came in. And people just
Absolutely.
went crazy.
And that's when everything went up. Crazy amounts of money. There's people with money now that are spending it, and they don't care how much they pay for taxes.
Yep.
I was talking to Hood Richardson today, Commissioner Hood Richardson, and he said, man, I think it happened during the pandemic. And I said, yeah, it did happen. That's when it happened. A lot of people have money now that never had money. In fact, I was talking to one of my friends at church, and he said, well, I don't worry about my tax tax value going up. It looks like my house is more valuable, and I'll sell it for that when it's time to sell. Well, it doesn't always work out that way.
Right.
If the market's down, nobody's going to care about the tax value. They're going to pay what they can get it for. It's called a buyer's market. And it just, everything doesn't work by some kind of a fashionable book that's been written in the minds of the public. It just doesn't happen. It happens in reality, in real terms, and those machinations are changing all the time, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Whereas sometimes things get invented that have never happened before, and you go, how'd that happen?
Right. So
I'm not that smart after all, am I?
You're talking about a couple of cool things here. We're talking about elected officials.
Yeah.
We're talking about a lot of money moving around.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about dire financial situations. And I think this is a perfect segue for the bombshell, I guess we could call it, that Nick's been holding in here. I hope you're sitting down or holding on to
I'm
something.
sitting. Wait, hold on a minute. All right. This is real wood, by the way.
Oh, you're talking about?
Oh, you better knock on wood when we get this done.
No. So the city asked if I would go represent them in the Ellen Bravo suit against the city of Washington. So basically the city.
You're going to have the standing?
No, well, the attorney for the city basically asked the federal government to dismiss the case. Said it's not worthy of being at a federal level. That's their position. So I stood in for the city, and the judge asked the attorney for Bravo, "Are you seeking damages here?" He was very callous, really. He said, "Tell me about this mayor suing the city. What's that about? This seems a little crazy." And he asked the attorney, "Are you seeking damages? Are you seeking damages?" And he was reluctant to say anything. And eventually the lawyer said, "Yeah, we are seeking damages, $1 million in damages plus attorney's fees." And
I mean,
we all had to pick our jaws up off the look.
you can't make it up.
People end up in situations where they have a lawsuit against their city. That's part of the nature of the economic world. But $1 million in damages as a private citizen,
Governments do make mistakes, and they have to be very careful how they exert their will on the people. Mm-hmm. I mean, eminent domain is one of those issues, Fifth Amendment, and it's a takings clause. Mm-hmm. And, I've been a commissioner for 26 years. We've never enacted eminent domain, and you guys are basically, every time your Board of Adjustments gets together and, they start condemning properties and things like that, you're really entering eminent domain territory unless you got a damn good reason and you followed all the rules and regulations. You dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, and if you don't do that, you could be sued. It's just like our sheriff. Our sheriff in the past has been sued. Not this sheriff, but in the past we had a lot of lawsuits. Our insurance went up a lot.
yeah.
And these things do happen, and it's tough.
But the difference, though, is that, you're talking about a citizen suing their government because they were wrong.
That's one thing.
We're talking about an elected official suing a government that they were elected
I would have to step
represent.
off the board if I sued the county. I would have to. You'd have to leave the board.
You would think it's
You would have to leave,
right?
Yeah, wouldn't you?
I would think the mayor should choose to either be the citizen suing this city or be the mayor. It's to me, it's a very
you can't serve two masters.
An absolute conflict of interest. Either I am, because when you sue the city, I think there's a lot of important things to understand there.
She's suing me.
That's right.
Suing you. She's suing
For
you.
$1,000 for you, $1,000 for me, and $1,000
10,000 residents is $1,000 per person.
No.
There's no insurance that covers that if the city is found liable. So what that means is, while we spend all month looking for ways to cut taxes, we're going to have to account for $1 million potentially going out. Throw in lawyer fees, $1.3 million going out to pay this lawsuit. Yeah, I really don't know how you can say I'm going to look out for the citizens on the one hand, and then I'm going to sue them personally on the other. And that's really the difficult
It's
situation.
just not the case though, because we kind of talked about it really quickly before we started rolling. We had the meeting to talk about 15th Street not too long ago. The work session, DOT came, they put up all the maps. It was a great session, to be honest. I really enjoyed it. Right after we were done, our mayor goes across the street, gets on the Henry Hinton show, and I have to say thank you to Mr. Hinton. I mean, he helped get us elected with running our ads and doing some stuff for us. So thank you to you. But she went on that show and she said, Washington is not pro small business. We're not pro business. They want to work against us. Look what's happening to me. I have a council that doesn't support business, blah, 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 all these things. Now, in my opinion, I'm elected for the people, by the people.
That's a lot of
but
political
also,
chips went out the window right there.
well, also, we're elected to represent the city. So when we get in a room of a business that wants to come to the city, the first thing we say is, we absolutely want you to come here. We'll do anything we can to help you with the county, with the permitting process, anything to make it easier for you.
Yeah.
We want you here because we want you to employ our citizens. For an elected official to go out and say, the community that I'm representing, elected to represent, we don't want it. It's pretty bad, in my opinion. It's just not good.
I got a
It
question.
hurts everyone. Go ahead.
$1 million.
Yep.
Of course, the city made mistakes. I've seen them make mistakes. I've seen it firsthand many times.
Sure.
Okay. Are any individuals being sued? Because you can sue the city and the individual. Are they suing? Is she
Former
suing?
Mayor Donald Sadler is named in the lawsuit.
Okay.
And I got to be honest with you, I don't know Mr. Sadler. I mean, other than passing conversation, we disagree politically.
He took a very hands-on approach as mayor, though,
Nobody worked harder than him during his
It's
time.
difficult
for certain things.
The mayor has no authority. There's no vote. The mayor's not the boss of anyone.
The mayor, if he wants to act like, or she wants to act like the boss, some bureaucrats allow that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They do. I've seen it happen here locally. And the mayor, even though they do not vote, they really don't have any real legislative power. They can act like they're the boss because they have the bully pulpit, so to speak.
But you know what power they do have, though? Look at somebody who's a strong mayor, like in Greenville, PJ Conley.
Yeah, PJ's
He's a
great.
strong mayor. Strong mayor. The power that he has in his position is he has influence over his council. So he knows if there's something that has to go through because it's going to be conservative, it's going to be good, it's going to be fiscally responsible, he knows he can get that to go through because his council trusts him, his community trusts him.
Yeah.
And that's just how it should be. But most people don't know in North Carolina, the majority of the communities are what they call, dummy mayors, I think is what it's called. The mayor doesn't have a vote. They don't really have a say. They're just the presiding officer over the meeting. That's it.
It depends on how they wish to wield power.
Right.
Again, we're back to the political chips. Do you really want to spend your political chips going after this person or that person because you don't like them? Maybe they have a different political view than you. And you say, well, I'll show him. That'll look good in front of all my constituents that I took that person down. And that sometimes can be the case. And Sadler is known for that.
Well, even if that's true, I don't think that.
And I'm only saying this because it's true, okay? I'm not going out on a limb.
No.
I'm only saying it because it's true.
My position on that is politics. And even if that was the case, she went up against him and won this election. She basically said, I disagree with you politically and I'm going to challenge you. Yeah. And the people did what we do in a democracy. They say, great, we're going to change one out for the other. Mm-hmm. And yet, now she's suing that guy saying she was injured.
What is she suing for? Because let me express what I understand, because the whole bed and breakfast thing is primarily a state issue, and then it's handed down to the county, okay? And the city has ordinances that they impose because they have ancillary jurisdiction for different reasons. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But the issues that the state has handed down through the county is separate. And that's, do you meet the criteria for a bed and breakfast? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I've I'm concerned about this issue because I want to know how that works in the county, because I've seen certain situations that might be good for economic development in the county. And I want to know what the parameters are to live by.
At the end of the day, what this boils down to, and there's a lot that we can't talk about, obviously, because of closed session laws. But at the end of the day, what it boils down to is it's a zoning issue. You had a special.
That's the ancillary ordinance.
But that's all that this is. It's a zoning issue. You had applied for your special use permit for your business.
Mm-hmm.
There were these certain restrictions that you set for yourself to follow. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't follow them. The city called you out on it. You kept doing it anyways. The city said, okay, we're going to pull your permit, the BOA. She said, well, wait a minute. No, you're not. That's not fair because you're doing this as a political attack against me. I'm going to file a lawsuit against the city. I will say the only thing from what I've seen, and disagree with me if you think I'm in the wrong here, but from what I've seen, the only thing that the city did wrong in this position was the timing.
Yeah, timing was terrible.
The timing was terrible.
Still.
It was terrible, absolutely terrible. But
And the part about there was a police officer, kind of watching, was that true or?
All that stuff, because what you see on online, what's true, what's not true.
I don't.
And we don't.
I don't do Facebook.
And I don't
the
either.
internet,
And
sure, right?
Yeah, it's on Facebook. It's real.
To some extent, that's that's I suppose why it's in court. But if there's a special use permit issued, there was a complaint that permit was violated.
Mm-hmm.
It was investigated.
Mm-hmm.
The Board of Adjustments called her in as the business owner and said, we're going to revoke this permit because apparently you violated it. So we're going to have a hearing. We're going to investigate that violation. In that hearing, they said this officer went to your house and observed you violating this permit, which was taken to be surveillance.
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't actually revoke the permit.
Uh-oh.
So now they said, what we would like to do here is we're going to postpone it, and we would like the city and the bed and breakfast to get together and rewrite this ordinance. And specifically, they asked her, why don't you come together?
How would they let her be part of the rewriting of the ordinance?
Put forth something that everyone can live with, because they're not attempting to actually.
But you see where I'm coming from. Mm-hmm. Then you have an interested party acting on behalf of themselves, when actually it should be more through open meetings. And you see where I'm coming from? It just, for me, from what seems fair in governing, it just didn't smell right. That doesn't smell right on its face.
Well, then it was continued, and it was continued. Now there's a new crowd of people. And so now here's where we come in. So now January, we're a new crowd of people in, and there's obviously some questionable whatever's going on with the ordinance surrounding bed and breakfast. Right. But there's a lawsuit that the city's engaged in surrounding exactly that ordinance. So we're sort of advised, you guys probably don't need to be messing with that ordinance now.
So that stopped everything.
So now we're in this weird limbo where the mayor has a lawsuit suing the city for preventing her from doing business.
And the former mayor directly.
Yet they haven't prevented her from doing business. And so what is the damage?
Is she still doing business?
She never stopped doing business. So what is
she doesn't have any real damages?
So there's no damages. And her lawyer, who focuses 100% on cases like this, basically leeching onto municipalities and suing them and sucking a bunch of money out, he's swooping in saying we're going to sue for $1 million in damages. So now we're the
damages to her character, but she won the election. So that kind of negates that, right?
Is it damage? I mean, truly, is it damage?
I don't know. You do business.
Publicity for your
you
business?
do business, man. It's just, I don't see how there's, it has to be very overt to be damages. I don't know. This is a very sticky wicket, and I don't want to give an opinion on it, but one can see both sides, you know?
Well, you sort of start from where you said it seems like you should step down and choose doing one or the other, or, or drop the, right now there is no damages happen. And we're not in a position to, I mean, we could sit down and rewrite some ordinances, and we would actually like to do that, but
we'd love to.
Because there's other bed and breakfasts in town. There's other people who would like to open bed and breakfast in town.
Less regulation is always better.
Right.
For sure.
Well, and the other thing,
smart regulations are good, but less is better. Let me say one thing. Case in point. We talk about the cost of energy all the time.
Yeah.
You guys have to worry about it. I did a little investigation. Right now, the cheapest way to go is solar because a lot of it's subsidized, right? And you can get online real fast. But long term, the cheapest way to go is nuclear. It's not a whole lot cheaper, but it's cheaper. Now, the biggest cost in nuclear energy is the creation of the plant, okay? Half of the cost of the plant comes from regulations and delaying the building of the plant. So government has an interest in stopping it through regulation. Where actually, if you had feasible regulations, nuclear power would be about 40% of solar. And you wouldn't have the damage in, I mean, we really actually need farmland for farms.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need to be cutting daggone trees down.
The farms are going to be crucial in 20 years.
Yes, very much so. And they keep talking about the planet.
Yeah.
Growing stuff, trees, that eats up carbon dioxide.
What?
Yeah, who would ever thought that?
let me jump in on this too really quickly. So nuclear energy right now in 2026, it is the cleanest and safest form.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
The cheapest.
Even with events like 3 Mile, Chernobyl, the
Things have changed.
The plants in Japan, all that stuff. It is the safest form of energy. I mean, I lived in Wake County. There were nuke plants all over the place.
Yes.
But you talked about solar. So back in 2012, I believe, the city signed a contract with a Duke subsidiary company. They gave them 53 acres of land at our airport for a massive solar field. Now, the DOT was just here yesterday at the airport, and they asked me, they said, oh, you guys must love the solar field. How much energy do you get from that? 0. Do you know how much money we get for that? For 53 acres for a solar field? How much money do you think the city gets per year for that?
I mean, how much? I don't know.
Take a guess.
0.
No, not 0.
Okay.
How much do you think we're charging now?
I would say at least $100,000.
$12,000 a year is what we get for it.
$2,000 an acre.
So
roughly $2,200.
But the contract says that the land is worth $500,000, and that's what they should be paying. So here's the issue that I have with solar. It takes up a ton of land. It doesn't produce a ton of energy, in my opinion. If it's not producing energy, at least in our contract, we have to pay the difference back to Duke. We get none of that energy directed towards the city. You know, the industrial park we're building there, it could probably be powered off that field if we wanted it to be. But we can't do that. But at the time, the current city manager, who's not the county manager, by the way, said, this is the best economic development opportunity we're going to get. We have to do this. We have to give them a great contract.
That doesn't even sound like economic development.
No, but he did his job by
thought.
shielding the politicians.
I guess he got the city a contract they can't get out of though now.
Yeah,
because now we're stuck with this for another 2 years before the contract automatically renews for another 50.
Well, that's what happened in the city of Washington about 50-something years ago. We got an electricity contract, as you well know, that's hard for us to get out of. But it wouldn't be nice if we had a nuclear power plant close by that we could tap into, you guys could tap into. Well, we'd all be better off.
We got this great source of water here.
Yeah.
You're in the county. Where's the best spot to put a power plant in the county?
Anywhere. You talking about a nuclear power plant?
Where would you put one if you could put one somewhere?
You're way out on the limb on that. When was the last time a nuclear
Warehouses got a lot of land. I really, look, I saw a piece of news where they created a nuclear powered generator that was about this big.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, if they can do that, and you got AI and you got supercomputers now, very powerful supercomputers, everything can happen fast. You're not going to have a 3 Mile Island because that was because of human error, right?
Right.
So if you run things properly and you have everything built perfectly, which they can do now, everything can be built perfectly to the nth of degree. So why not do it?
When was the last time a nuclear power plant was built in the United States?
I have no idea.
I don't think anybody.
I
remember reading an article back in like 2000 where they were going to try to build one in California, and they said there was something like 170 regulations regulatory inspections they had to go through, and they said they made it through 3 of them and failed every one of them.
Stops progress.
After so and so many years, and the company said, well, we're just going to quit.
Now, look, President Trump has made it easier than ever before to do things like nuclear
You
power.
got your computer, man. I'll give you a minute. I'd like to know when the last time a nuclear power plant was built.
I'll talk about Lee Zeldin for a moment. Great guy. Trump, his true secret, his success is picking the right people for the right job. He is so smart at that, and he always picks smart people. Either that or really good-looking women.
Well, while this is loading, and I'm going to do it on my phone too because I don't think it's going to load on this. Our city manager pick,
Yeah, the new city manager. We haven't talked about him yet.
Okay, wait, hold on, right here. April 29th, 2024. It was in Georgia. It's the Vogtle Electric Generating Plant in Georgia. It began commercial operation, and it's nuclear power. And there it is.
How about that?
But
Georgia.
our new city manager, there were
Just a minute. My producer is telling me we got 6 minutes left. So we're gonna do the city manager, and then we're gonna start wrapping this thing
I have a
up.
question for you, so let me speed run this. So there was a lot of concerns about, him coming in just because of his past and things that were put up. There were a couple articles on ENCNow. The city manager is so important because the community has to have blind trust in that person. Same with the county manager. A lot of people don't even know that they exist, but they're responsible for being fiduciary and fiscally responsible for your taxes that are collected. So what's been really eye-opening for me is that after he got in, he started calling us and saying, well, why is this happening like this? This doesn't make sense. It's a waste of money. This is a waste of money. How do we do, early retirement so we save on salary caps? How do we do this? Let's ask this department to save money. Outsource this here. I mean, you want to talk about somebody who's leading with conservative principles? It's happening in Washington, finally.
Good. There's one mistake you guys did make, though.
Hit me.
You should have taken the vote in public.
I'll let you answer that.
Well, the idea with that was that we interviewed a bunch of folks, and then we offered a contract, and we turned it over to the attorney, and we said, negotiate this contract, and if you can get them to start as soon as possible. That was basically the deal, and so he got the contract signed.
Even that should have been told in public. If you did that in public, and you guys are new, okay? And you probably should have gotten the advice from the attorney. Should have told you, well, we got to do this vote in public.
So each one of us asked that question, and they said, we're fine the way that we're proceeding.
They said you can't.
I don't know. I think, but see, that's just what I understand from the general statute.
Well, we asked the question because we felt the same way, but they said, you're fine. It's general consensus.
He said it's similar to getting a treaty signed in the old days. You send it out. We basically said, we're good with this. He came back and said, I'm good with it too. The very first thing we did at that meeting was we ratified that contract, which...
Well, I'm going to give you a case in point.
And there was nobody against it, by the way, at the time when we were saying, let's get this done. Not one person was against it.
Well, let me give you a case in point. At the county, we tentatively have hired a county manager. I can't say anything more than that. Tentatively. But we're going to have we've negotiated. There's an agreement. But if something comes up, you might lose a vote or two. And we're going to have to take that vote in public. I've got to vote. And I was very clear that I would go to this level and no more. Now, I'm just one vote, but I will vote against it if it changes from what I understood it should be. Sure. But it doesn't matter what I think or how it goes. What really matters more than anything, it just has to be done in public. And I'm just bringing this to your attention. I think I'm right here. I think there's general statutes that, at least for counties, demands that we do every vote in public. Sure. Especially when it's the public's money and it's hiring a public employee. And you guys make, 3 appointments? 3. And the county makes 5. And we have to do all those. We negotiate in private. But before we do the vote, we express everything in public. And then we vote. And then if anybody wants to have a counter opinion and vote no, they can do it then.
Yeah.
And the public can scream, yell, the mob says you can't hire this guy. So, they get to do that.
Well, this guy's going to deliver a tax cut for the people like they wanted.
You guys are going to deliver the tax cut.
With his help, because he's the expert. No, I want to give you some kudos.
But you guys will be listening and making the better decisions.
Yes, sir.
And he'll be working for you as your appointment, your number one appointment, I might add. So, you guys will be responsible for everything that happens. However, you think you got the right man in place. So that's good.
I believe so, Ju.
Yeah.
So I want to give you some kudos really quick. So the county, I've been to a couple of your meetings recently, and people don't watch them enough because I think they're just as interesting as ours. But
high drama.
You guys have had some really complicated issues with DSS and some of the child rehoming issues and everything. And you've stood really firm on your position on that. And I think it's something to be really proud of. I think it's great that you're saying something's wrong here. We need to be addressing it and looking into it. And if not, we need to say, hey, we're getting out of this business. State government, you do this. You're doing it wrong. The county is not going to be held accountable for your mistakes.
If we can, we might have we got how many minutes we got left? Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be very quick. Now, thank you for saying that. Basically, what I did was I want to have general statutes written where we will be able to take a larger hand, and the state take a larger hand, and take it out of the bureaucrat's hand as much as possible, because the math of this issue is not good. There's just too many cases out there. And some of these people, I know, and some of them may not be perfect, and some of them may be pretty golden. I don't know exactly. Nobody knows what goes on in the hearts of man. But I will tell you this, we don't benefit by taking every child out of the home and putting them in the system. There's going to be mistakes made, and mistakes are being made right now, and we are in a liability situation on a number of them. And I'm not doing this because of the liability. I'm doing it because I don't like to see families broken up.
Yeah,
Well, you're doing the right thing because it's right. I mean,
Thank
good
you.
men do nothing, evil prevails.
Thank you. And there was only 2 of us on that board. Now we got 3, I think. And maybe we'll get 4 next time. But all we can do is ask General Assembly to do a better job in writing general statutes.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's it for today. I thank you. We've had a great meeting. It looks like we've already got the next meeting with the city council guys set up, where Councilman Perreault and Councilman Davis will meet. Nick will sit this one out, and we'll get together. We'll get down to the nitty gritty. We're down into budget. We'll meet during that budgetary time. And I thank you for coming. Thank you for viewing us, and see you next time.